If you will change, everything will change for you. You don't have to change what's outside. All you've got to change is what's inside. To have more, you simply have to become more. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes. It'll all change for you. Start from scratch. Start from obscurity. Start with pennies. Start with nothing. And have a chance to transform your life, change your life, set your goals, and see what you can accomplish. Make sure what you do is the product of your own conclusion, not to do what someone else says. Take what someone else says, process it, think about it, ponder it. If it makes you wonder, if it makes you think, then it's valuable. Then when you go take action, make sure that the action is not what somebody told you to do. Make sure the action is the product of your own conclusion. If you'll follow just a little bit of those simple guidelines, telling you the learning process can be speedy, swift, powerful. Your learning curve can go up, and then applying it to your business, your life, your family, conversations, equities of all kinds. You'll find some progress like I did that first 5 years when I met a teacher willing to share with me, turned my life around. Progress I couldn't believe happened for me. I used to blame the traffic, the weather, used to blame circumstances, right? People say I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too old. I was raised in obscurity, raised on a farm, parents of modest means, all the stuff. If you were to ask me, how come you find yourself here, Mr. Rohn, age 25, living in America, land of abundance and opportunity, pennies, zero in the bank, not doing well, creditors calling, it would not have occurred to me to blame my philosophy. I found it easier to blame the company policy. I used to say, if this is all they pay, how do they expect you to do well? So I figured that, my future was going to be tied to what everybody else was arranging, the economy and, right, interest rates. I used to say things cost too much. That was my whole explanation, not my philosophy, until my teacher taught me better that this is where the problem was, my own personal philosophy. Here's what's exciting about each person's personal philosophy. That's what makes us different than dogs and animals and birds and cats and spiders and alligators. That's what makes us different than all other life forms. The ability to think, the ability to use your mind, the ability to process ideas, and not just operate by instinct. In the winter, I'm telling you, the goose can only fly south. What if south doesn't look too good? Tough luck. It can only fly south. But see, human beings are not like a goose, can only fly south. I mean, you can turn around, go north, you can go east, you can go west, you can order the entire process of your own life. So hopefully you'll find some inspiration here today.
Hello, welcome to Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, personal development with a business plan, or a plan, just a plan. I'm just waiting for my good friend, Joye, $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga, to join us. But look, this is episode 148, The Millionaire Blueprint, Earl Shoaff's Timeless Lessons on Wealth and Success, part 2, right? Because we did part 1 a couple of weeks back. But look, what this is all about, it's about thinking and doing better. And we all want better. Who doesn't want better? It doesn't matter whether you want, better relationships, better finances, better health, whatever it is. We all want better. Me too. That's what I want. I want better. And why not try and get it here? Try and figure it out for yourself. We were listening to that video there. You're talking about personal philosophy. What's yours? And, if it's not working for you, why don't you come along and maybe try ours? I think it was Bob Proctor's mentor who said that to him. If you're always not working, why not try ours? Well, why not? But look, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click the notification button. You'll learn when we're on, usually around about the same time every week. Now, I know I missed a couple of weeks because I had a couple of things going on, that I couldn't get out of. But look, we're not going to worry about that. Can't change it. Right, so all we can do is try and be better, right? And that's the beauty of each morning when you wake up, you get the opportunity to be better than you were the day before, or at least try to be better. You don't want to try, you can always be better, right? We can all be better. So, like, subscribe, share, click the notification button. And again, my good friend Joye, Maka Unga, is having some PC problems, so he can't get on, which is fine. But look, let me see if I can share. Let me see. Hold on. Share. No, I don't want to do that. What do I want to do? Right. Yeah. So add this. Right. So this is Joey's website, Facebook page. Again, go and check him out. Produces a lot of great content. Great guy, right? And of course, you can also find him on his health and wellness business page. You'll see it says Joey's name at the top. And again, if you want to find out more about what he's doing, here's his website there. Links are in the description, actually, I think. Are they? Not sure whether they are or not, actually, this week. But maybe I'll add them. I'll go back and add them after. But again, you can find out more about what Joey's doing in his health and wellness business. And of course, there's a contact form here. All you need to do is add your name, your email, contact number, best time to call, submit, and of course, Joey will reach out and get in touch. So don't forget, go and check him out on his Facebook page and on his business page. Here he is. Oh, hold on. Let me bring him in. Joey, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Sorry for the difficulty. I was trying to get in from my PC. So I hope you can see me clearly and hear me clearly.
Absolutely, loud and clear. I was just telling everybody where they can find you on your.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Joey, $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga, really making a difference, and that's all it's about. That's what every day's about, right? Making a difference. So don't forget, go and check Joey out on his Facebook page, or again on his health and wellness page. Go and check him out. And again, look, if you want to know where you can find me on our academy page, petsofdesign.com/academy. And of course, you can get to start your own pet care company under the training and guidance of an established brand. We've been around a decade and a half, delivered well over 500,000 pet care services to thousands of customers. And what we want to do is teach other people how they can do the same and get to keep every penny that they earn. And of course, you can arrange a call with me just by clicking on the link, bring you to this page, and you can choose the best time to give you a call. And look, whether you're going to contact me or whether you're going to contact Joey, what it's all about, Joey will be the first to tell you if what he's doing is right for you, and I would be the first to tell you if what I'm doing is right for you, if what we're doing is right for you. And if it's not, I'm going to tell you that as well, because that's important. You want to be doing something that you love, something that you enjoy, something that you feel connected to, something that you feel that you're making a difference for other people. And the more people you can help, the more people you can serve, the better your life is going to be. And it's one of the reasons why Joey does what he does, and it's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because that's what it's about. It's about helping other people feel better about something that makes them feel bad. And, look, I don't know. We all, I was talking about this a moment ago. We all want better, but it starts with that change in yourself, So we're going to get on to part 2 of Earl Shoaff, How to Become a Millionaire. And this, of course, is Jim Rohn's mentor, which just fascinates me, really, because it just shows, if you mix with the right people, some of that stuff rubs off. Do you know what I mean? And you get to be better, right? How silly is that? Just get to be better. What's wrong with that? Who doesn't want better? All right. Right, Joe, say hello first before we begin.
Mike, I have to say apologies. You might see me maybe looking this way, not straight to the camera, because of my PC. I have to travel somewhere today, and I forgot my phone at the back. I used my wife's phone, and it was empty, flat. So charging up. Can you still see me? Am I talking direct to you, or am I looking for something?
Yeah, I think so. Like my screen, for whatever reason, my screen is not the size it should be. I don't know why. That's a little bit better.
You see me?
I can see you loud and clear. Well, I can see you perfectly. Yeah, you're right in the middle of the screen. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Oh, Mike,
right.
Thank you very much for the opportunity today. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and also share with our community and our audience, what we learn, what we experience, and what we have and what we offer to the marketplace. I think it's we felt like it's an obligation to share with the world while we still have the life and the opportunity to share through this platform. What we've found in life, what we learn about in life, what our challenge that help us grow in our journey. And tonight, I think we're looking forward. We learn from best of the best, and those people legacy live on because we make the decision 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, to start this program or this podcast every week, every Sunday, same time, to share what we have learned in our journey, in our story. It's give us the opportunity to share our story, share what we found in life that make an impact or difference in our life. And of course, we want to share. We don't want to keep it to ourselves. Like yourself, you're a business owner and you build a big organization in the pets industry, and you're very successful in what you do, and you want to pay it forward because someone has planted that idea in you, and you make the decision to go after that and build your dream, and you build an empire. But not only that, you want to teach other people to do the same thing so they can have some compensate or some financial outcome from doing the things that you love to do, and you want to share and pay it forward to our community. It's the same with me. When I share my story. 6 years ago, I had a big medical event. For the record, I had a heart attack. I didn't look after my health and myself. I always want to look after other people, apart from me. And I get to a point, that's the lowest point of my life, that I was submitted to the hospital, the ER, emergency room, with a heart attack. And I realized the most important things or asset that I have in life is my health. If I don't have my health, I won't be able to do the things that nowadays. We have a photo of me that we share a lot of the time. I was unhappy. The way we express ourselves in our daily life, it can express what is inside us. We're unhappy. We are dissatisfaction. We are worried. We fear. We stress. And it get to a point that we are almost. Thank God that it happened to me, because so that I can realize I have to realign myself back to realize that I can be better. I can, and that's me in the hospital. This is the moment of realization. This is the light bulb moment. When you look at the ceiling with all of the wire that are connected to you with multiple tests to see what's going on, something click. And that something is, for things to change, I have to change. And that moment I decided I don't want to look like that. I don't want to unhappy, unhealthy, unsuccessful. So I decided to work on myself every single day, so that one day, and progressively every day, I feel like I am happy, I am healthy, and I'm successful. And I'm still on a journey. And I believe it's the same with you, Mike. We are on a journey together, because when we stop on the journey, we set back. We are kind of moved back. And a lot of people in life, they stand still. They didn't realize they're going backward. As long as we keep moving forward in life, that's the thing. That's the most important thing. No matter what happened in life, it happened to each and every one of us. And who's that guy? Yeah, and we just keep moving forward. And I think tonight, our program not only help us to share with the world what God has done to my life or your life and other people's life, but it's give us our opportunity to pay it forward. The people that we come across, the mentor, the leadership, the book that we read, the program that we watch and listen to every single day in your car and my car. And now we want to pay it forward. And tonight, it's the same thing. Whatever we play for you to watch, it's the whole concept is to help you look up a little bit better, which means it's help you to inspire, empower, to go out and live the best life we can, because success, it's all about making a decision. So if you don't make a decision, you won't start your journey to success. All success, one of the common denominator, someone was decide to do something about their life, and that's how they progress or end up receiving in life, because they make the initial choice to change and to do something.
Joey, I love hearing your story. Do you know, am I muted? No, I'm not muted.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
maybe it was kind of lacking.
A delay. Yeah, no, I love hearing your story, Joey, because I think about a little kid climbing coconut trees, to come in and work in 3 jobs, burning the candle at both ends, trying to make a difference, in your kid's life, having this, trigger event that takes place in your life where you find yourself in a hospital bed. And I'm sure at that moment you're kind of licking your wounds a little bit, but you don't kind of come out of that situation, fearful. You come out of that situation more determined to do more, but to do things differently, right? Mm-hmm. And join the army, start your own business, build a property empire. Come on, you're having a laugh. Get yourself in shape. But that's real change. It's change, and that's the difference. The difference is attitude. And the difference is, you made a different decision, a tougher decision. You didn't choose to take the easy road. You chose to take a harder road, right? And there's no doubt that the road that you've taken is harder. And because if it was easy, Joey, everybody would be doing it,
Absolutely.
So, and you're still fighting on multiple fronts, but this time, rather than doing the home to work for the paycheck, you've still got your home to work, your traditional kind of job that you do, but then you've got this other area of your life where you're creating, wealth through building properties and things like this. And you've also got your health and wellness business where you're helping other people to look and feel the best they've felt maybe in a decade, to join you on your journey, which benefits you and them, so it's a win-win, just as the properties are win-win. And then of course you're serving in the army, giving back, more giving, whereas, before you were giving of yourself. Do you know what I mean? So much. Now you're doing it smarter. You're still working hard, but you're working smart at the same time as well. And you've changed relationships with who you hang around with. Like you're hanging around with the right people, on the road that you're on. So that's part of it. Being open. You've always said, you've got to be coachable. And you're being coached by the right people. But now you're in a position where you can start passing on some of that knowledge to other people. So yeah, it's a great story, Joey. It's not a story. It's just a real life rags to riches type, tramp to triumphant. Do you know what I mean? It's just beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to feed off that? And I've said for a long time that I don't think that I need anybody to and I don't need to, I look at your story and yes, it's inspiring, but that story is for you to inspire yourself, to show that you're far more capable of anything that you thought. And it's the same for me. I look at myself and I think, do you know what? I only need my story to inspire me. Do you know? I don't need it to inspire anybody else. I just need it to inspire me. To see that I can, there's been times in my life when I've been better. Do you know what I mean? And I can draw on that and I can grow from that and I can say, well, look, if I did it before, I can do it again, but I can be better. Do you know what I mean? And I think that as long as you've got a purpose, we all fall off the, the track sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But it's about having people like you around, and other mentors that can pull you back on, because if you fall off the track, the hardest part sometimes is getting back on. And that's the thing. You just got to have, that courage to keep going, knowing that what you're doing is making a difference. And that's what it's all about, And that's why I enjoy, listening to the likes of Earl Shoaff and Bob Proctor and Jim Rohn and people like this, because they've been there before, and their journey wasn't easy. When you get to the top of the hill, it's like, oh yeah, I've made it. Then you're thinking, God, that was hard work to get up here. There was I slipped a few times as well. Do you know what I mean? I slipped a few times while I was walking. Maybe even grazed my knee, got a bit of dirt on my hands, from having to keep myself on my feet. Like, it's not easy. It's hard. It's, but it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be challenging, because that's where the growth comes. That's where the learning comes, So anyway, let's get on to this, because it shouldn't be, I think we're a bit more than halfway through. So we'll have a listen to this and see what he has to say. Hold on, let's have a look.
Of everything in this world, it is yours because you're that type of a child. Start planting these seeds in our children. This country today is teaching too many children, what to think instead of how to think. And what are we? We are only children a little older than the other children. And we are grown-up children. And we have to, at some time in life, we have to start deciding and pinpointing things that we want in this world. And I am not just talking about the tangible objects. I'm talking about the intangible things. What would you like to be? What type of person would you like to be? Would you like to have more love in your life? Well, then you must learn to give love. You'll never have anything without giving. Everything I give, I receive back, multiplied. If I have a lot of hate in my life, I'm giving hate out. And so if I don't want hate coming in my life, I should not be giving it out. If I don't want people to talk about me, I shouldn't be talking about people. Everything that I send out, I get back with feeling. Every thought I think, I don't get, because I did not plant my seed properly. I did not have a true visualization. How many of you ladies have thought of a beautiful dress, or a beautiful something that you wanted to have? How many of you just said, I would love to have a mink stole? A few years ago, if my wife even mentioned a mink stole, the first thing that come in my mind is, where are you going to get it from? How are you going to pay for it? And I did not understand these things. When you just say a mink stole, you know what? I never was aware that there were so many mink stoles in the country. Every kind, at every price and color and designs and everything else. And if you don't even know the exact kind you want, how do you ever expect to have it? Huh? That's like somebody saying, you know the amazing thing? The average person in this room, and I'm only saying this, people, because we are the average people of the world. And I'm saying this, and I say average, because I am talking to an intelligent group of people. I'm not talking to the people way down the ladder. I'm talking to a group of intelligent people. And I'm saying this, if you analyze this yourself and ask yourself this basic question, do you know what you want in life? If I was to ask you right now, what do you really want? What are the tangible objects that you want in this world? Things that you can feel and touch and smell. What are these things that you want in life? And you know, folks, the amazing thing, I doubt if there's 2% of the people in this room could tell me and describe it and just like that come right out and say it. Because they have not been completely defined. He said, I want a new home. I said, what kind of a home would you like? He says, well, let's see now. I think I'd like a 2-story building. No, this is a good way to pick your home. Listen, you think you'd like a 2-story building. You don't know how many bedrooms. You haven't laid out a design. You don't know exactly what you want. And this is why, folks, that, you know what happens? We get a lot of things that's left over from the people who know what they want. That's why we do not get the things. We haven't defined it. We do not know exactly what we want. How much success do you want? You guys, I want a lot of money. Let me tell you the importance in defining things. This is a very, very important thing. Very important. Boy, you can get yourself messed up something awful if you don't follow this properly. A friend of mine, I told him about this idea of creating a vision. Because when you get the vision of the Cadillac once more, you can even get the feeling of the thing. You can even see yourself in it. You can get the feeling of that thing. This is where things happen quick for you. And I told this person about visualizing things, defining what he wanted. but he didn't define it completely. This was his dream. He wanted to take an ocean voyage. And he got the feeling of the ocean voyage and everything else. He was in this ship, in the bow of the ship, and the waves were rolling, and the breeze was blowing in his face, and the salt water was blowing in his face, and he had all the feeling and everything else. And within 1 year's time, this dream come back to him because he was standing on the bow of the ship. And the swell of the waves, and the breeze was blowing in his face, and the salt water was hitting him on his face. But he forgot to define it completely, and he was taking his voyage. He was in the service. Be sure and define your dream exact. My niece, ever since she was born, she's now 20, 21 years old. We have been teaching her these ideas. But people don't hear so good. They just hear what they want to hear. For some strange reason, you tell a guy you want it. What do you want? You can have anything in the world you want to have. Anything. You name it. You can have anything. The guy says, well, I haven't got the time to write it down. You can go out. If you dig a ditch from here to Washington, D.C., 6 feet deep, 3 feet wide, I'll give you $1 million. The guy get a shovel, start right in digging. If I say I'll give it to you, the guy says, yeah, can't be. Isn't that amazing? My niece, we've been telling her this thing over and over and over about visualizing and pinpointing the things that she wanted in her life. I said, what do you want? She says, money, money. I said, how much money? She was just big piles of money. And so she got this feeling, she could see it in her mind, piles of money, just counting out piles of it, $100 bills and 50s and coins and just money all over every place. And within 6 months' time, she was counting out money in a bank. She was a clerk in a bank, a cashier. She did not define it. That it was her money she was counting.
And it's kind of funny, Joe. When you think about it, because you do, you think about things, and sometimes in most cases, you're thinking about the things that you don't want. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. And then it really happens. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that the universe, God, the creator, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, do you know what I mean? These things come to you. If you think about them, what is it? Bob Proctor says, you become what you think about. That's, I'm not sure that's Bob's quote, but, or wherever he got that from, but you become what you think about. I think it was Aristotle or somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Or some other, And this is what this is what it all seems to be about. If you're talking this stuff out loud, if you're talking hate, you're attracting that back to you. All that kind of stuff. And something that you've repeatedly said, what do you really want? You've got to decide what you really want. And I think that's an important one. What type of person do you want to be? Because you grow into that person, don't you? But it starts by, and again, it's in the video that we'll watch at the end, by acting, walking, talking like you're already there, becoming that person, dressing in like that way. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I like how he used the word define. Everyone have a dream. Our children and the young one, and we experience that when we grow up. We always dream. We always dream to have a nice house, maybe to drive a nice car, maybe to go on a vacation, maybe to have more money, maybe to travel places and contribute. But you have to define it, like actually write it down. Because when you write it down, a lot of things help to clear. It's like you're painting a picture of what is on your mind. And, it's funny, it reminds me of a story that a witchcraft, someone went over and he had in Tonga, there is like a buaka means big. And he went into the witchcraft and said, I want you to help me to find my buaka, my big. And the witchcraft said, okay, I'm going to do my spell and my magic to see what. And then the witchcraft explained, okay, I know where is your beak is, your waka is tall, and he's a male, and he's with other waka big somewhere. And then the guy who came and asked for help said, but witchcraft, my beak is not a male one, he's a female one. And he said, you have to be specific. You have to define what you really want. Otherwise, I'll cook my magic to be a male one instead of a female. If you told me it's a female one that you want, that you look at, they want to look for, I will cook up my magic spell to find a female one. But you didn't mention it's a female. So it is exactly what happened in our life. Sometimes we want something in life, we dream of something. But I think, saying that, I caught up in sometime I want to achieve something in life. But I think the thing that missing from the recipe, I haven't defined it really. And, I share my goal card all the time with you. 5 years ago, I wrote down that I want 5 houses, properties in my portfolio. I have no idea how I can get it. I have no idea where the money comes from. I have no idea where to start. But I wrote it down. I just need 5. I just need to have 5 numbers in my portfolio, in accumulation of my. And I just go work for it. And I just go work. I start to attract the people. Someone rang me up and asked me to come to a seminar. And I just went there. And then when I look back after 5 years, when I accomplished that goal, when I look at my goal cards, I have 5 or 6 at that time. I said to him, wow, this is the simple dream that I was kind of like imagination to have in 5 years. And I just wrote it down on the symbol card, and I carry it with me every day. And I look it up before when I wake up and before I go to bed. Now it's happened in real, and for me, it reminds me how simple it is. But if you don't define it, if you said, I want more houses, that's not really define of your goal or your dream. Of course, you can have more houses, but how many? Define is exactly know what you really. Bob Proctor used to say, tell me what you really want, and I'll show you exactly how to get it. Yeah. And it's the same thing when it comes to dream and vision, and it's funny. I like one thing, in school, they teach you what to think, they teach you. That's the education system. I realize when you learn about yourself and, if you want to become an entrepreneur and build your own business and help as many people you want to, you start to realize that the entrepreneur system teach you how to think, Robert Kiyosaki, I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, and this is one of his books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is one of the books that started my financial literacy. He said, don't think, I can't do it. That's your language. Your language sometimes it can be a barrier for your dream to accomplish your dream, because you keep telling yourself, but I can't do it. I don't have the time, but my wife is still at home. I can't afford. And we hear that in the entrepreneur journey and the business life. But Robert Kiyosaki said, don't say I can't, say how can I do that? And I think when I first start my journey in properties, that's what I keep saying to myself. Of course, I need 5 property portfolio in 5 years. And that's what I write it down. I defined it. And that's the number I want. I don't know what kind of house that I want. I don't know where the location is. I'm going to put the houses, but I just put it down on a piece of paper in a 3x5 card and carry with me every single day. And I remind myself, this is what I want to accomplish. But because I keep telling myself, how can I? And and myself, I asked God for a little bit of help. I said, God, I have no idea. You know me. I come from an island. I climb coconut tree, and that's what I know better. How can I tap into the world that people will show up in my life? And I asked God to direct me in the right direction. And guess what happened? people start to show up in my life. And I never met them, you know. And one of my business partners now that we are working in few projects together, I was on a restaurant and he was standing behind me, but I noticed he was doing, you know, project from what I follow him and saw him, because someone posts something and it's attract me to him because I like his work ethic, I like his model, I like his heart, want to support the people who want to be in the property. So, and all of a sudden, I look back. I took my family for dinner, and I look back guess who I saw? It was him. And you know what I said? Exactly, because I listened to Jim Rohn a lot, Mike. And Jim Rohn said when he approached someone and said, "No, but I don't have the money," and Jim Rohn used to say, "I've been looking for you. Let me show you how to get the money." And you know, I used that phrase, and I said to him, look straight him in the face. I said to him, "I've been looking for you. We need to talk." You know, and now fast forward one month, I come back from the army, and he saw my post that I a part of the Australian Army. He first person who sent me a congratulation, it was him. I pick up the phone, called him, I said, "Where are you? Can we talk?" He said, I'm just in Dubai. I will come back next week. I'll come to your place. And the journey start from there, you know, but it's so that everyone have the dream. But the dream, if you don't do something about the dream, it's like the seed that we're talking about every week. If you don't put the seed in the ground and look after that, cultivate it, you know, nourish it, water it, you know, weed out the weed and make sure it's you know, healthy and, you know, have good ventilation or whatever, you know, sunshine, you know, you will see the result. You will see the result. No matter where you start with nothing or have no idea, if you keep working on your dream, define what you really want in life, and keep going in life. And that's exactly what I do in everything I do. With the army, with the business, with the investing. I put down what I really want. I send it to the universe. I ask God, help me, this poor island boy. This is what I want to achieve in a few years from now. And I'm going to put on my goal card, and I'm going to carry with me every day to remind me this is what I really want in life. And God, I need your help. And I always ask for a little help. We all do need a little help, you know, whether from the universe or, you know, whatever. So thanks, Mike.
No, Joey, like if you remember in part one, he said it doesn't come to us, it comes through us. And that's really what you're talking about. You're talking about, you know, it coming through you. You know, like you create your environment, you create your future by how you think. You know, your thinking controls your feelings control your actions control your results. But some of it, it's not coincidence. The fact that you're saying, right, okay, I want to meet this guy, or this is the guy that I'm interested in, and then all of a sudden he appears behind you. Do you know what I mean? That's coming through you, through what you're putting out into the ether, into the world. You know, you get what you think about. Like if you're thinking shitty things, you're going to get shitty things happen to you. You know, if you're thinking, you know, great big bold ideas, you know, you're going to get presented with these great big bold opportunities. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. You know, that can absolutely change your life. And a lot of times, exactly as you say, you know, people aren't ready for them. You know, they want them, but they're not ready for them. And when you talk about Jim Rohn saying, yeah, we've been looking for you, you know, let me show you how. You know, like, why not? You know, like so part of it is about being ready. And that's why, you know, you have to become that person first before you get it. You know, like it is a curious thing. It is a curious thing. You know, he's talking here about, you know, his niece saying, yeah, I want a lot of money. I want to have loads of money. And then she ends up working in a bank because she didn't define it. She didn't define how, whose money.
He's counting,
right?
counting other people's money or his money.
Yeah. You know,
So funny.
I know it's a funny
That's a good
story,
one.
but and he's talking about the other guy. Then he says, "Hey, I want to, you know, I'd love to be on a boat, you know, like in the waves and blah blah blah." And then 6 months later, he's in the Navy. Like, you got to be careful what you think about. You got to be careful what you want. You got to, like, you literally have to define it. You know?
Yeah. Be clear what you really want. That's how it's exactly what they Shoaff want us to do. Whatever you decided to have in life, be specific. Because if you don't, God can give you anything.
I can't remember who it was that said that, you know, if you're not working on your goals, you're going to be working for someone else for their goals. Do you remember that? You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have a goal, you know, to know what you want and to be working on it. You know, that's important. Let me see. All right, let's get back to this.
That's why these things are important. It's important to define things. It's like a fellow says, I said, what do you want? He says, I want to earn $1,000 a week. I said, you better get a little closer to it than that, Buster. You're not defining it. He said, what's wrong with that? I said, I know a lot of people that are earning $1,000 a week and are only getting 50. So you want to say, I want to earn and I want to receive $1,000 a week. Now, there's one thing about the subconscious mind, folks. It does not play favorites. It doesn't kid. It doesn't fool. And everything that you plant there, you're going to reap. That's why you want to be sure that you plant exactly what you want. That's why people are getting all the time things they don't want. Guys don't want a house, so he gets a house, any kind of a house. But he gets it. He says, how come we get a house like this? This isn't exactly what we wanted. We've been in here 3 months. We should have had 3 bedrooms instead of 2. And he says, how come we got this? Well, here, he didn't know what he wanted, so he just got a house. He didn't define it. He wouldn't have had that house if he had defined it. And so that is with everything in this world. Everything. If you want to be a happier person, define the type of person you would like to be. Define it, pinpoint it, write it down. Write across there, thank you. Plan it deeply. And once you do it, don't worry about it anymore. This is going to happen to you. All wonderful things are going to happen to you to make you a happy person. You want more success? How much success? You know, when I was working in the dry cleaning business, I was making $100 a week, less than $100. You know what happened? $100 a week. If somebody told me it paid me $200 a week, I thought, oh man, this is the end. This is the end. I could retire practically on $200 a week. So what is success? What is success? If I talk to a man who's making $3,000 a month and told him I was going to pay him $200 a week, he wouldn't be very happy about the situation. So what is success in your life? What is it that you want? Define it. Write it down. Pinpoint every drop of that dream that you have in your mind. Define it so clearly on that piece of paper that you can completely see it in your mind. And when you get it written down, write thank you on it and plant that seed and put it away. And it'll start to materialize. It'll start coming into your life. That is anything, folks. Anything. Now, the guy said, I'm going to put down a Statler Hotel. You know why it wouldn't work for him? You know why it wouldn't work for him? I'm not saying it won't work for the fellow, but I'm saying it won't work for the average person. You know why? He couldn't even imagine getting it. He can write it down. He can define it. He can put thank you on it, but he can never plant the seed. And the reason he can, because he couldn't even imagine getting a Statler Hotel. That's why. Now, don't forget, this is something that you have to accept. You're going to have it, folks. I've told people about a Cadillac. The average people working on average jobs. I said, do you want a Cadillac? The guy said, well, no, I don't want no Cadillac. And I said, well, why don't you want a Cadillac? He says, well, for one thing, he says, it costs so much to operate them. And so, see, he doesn't want one. He isn't ready for that step yet. Now, so he steps from one car to another to another. He raises his consciousness until pretty soon he can buy Cadillacs like the average guy buys a pair of shoes. And you can grow. You can grow in your thinking. I've had people say, boy, you got to be careful about people. You know, they'll take you in if you're not careful. And they get such a wonderful visualization. They're always getting taken in. And so you see how we build these pictures in our minds. People will spend the morning. They're going to get ready for a wonderful day. Tomorrow morning now, we're getting ready for a wonderful day. We're going out, and it's going to be the most successful day we've ever had in our entire life. I said, how are you going to start the morning? Exactly what are you going to do? He said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out on the porch. He's going through his morning now. He's going out on the porch, and he's going to get his newspaper. And read a little bit about positive thinking on the headlines. And if he can't find it there, he'll look and look and look and look until he finds something that is really good negative, and then he'll tell his wife and describe it. She says, guess what I found in the paper? And he starts telling them about some wonderful divorce that's taken place, and the kids, they committed suicide. And he'll go on to this, and he says, and just imagine that. Imagine what's happening here. And he'll describe it, and he'll describe it, and he'll go on with his negativity, and the negativity will get started, and the wife will get negative, and he will get more negative. And when he gets all through with breakfast now, he's in such a nasty mood that he don't even like his dog. And he's going out to face the world with a positive attitude. Do you see how ridiculous it is, folks? Do you see how ridiculous it is and some of the ridiculous things we do in life, and we wonder why success doesn't always come to us in the proportion that we'd like to have it come to us? Expect wonderful things. Be a creator of ideas. Let's not be moons, the reflector of ideas. Let's be suns. Let's be the creator of the light. Let's be the creator of the ideas, because we all have the capacity. You know, that the guardian of the gate is the conscious mind. This guardian can at any time let any thought through to the subconscious mind at once. Any thought at any time. We are thinking human beings. We have the capacity to think of anything in this world we can think of. But we do not have the capacity to think of nothing. Now you try to imagine what nothing is. Try to get a thought of that. There is absolutely no way. So that means that we are thinking human beings, and there's thoughts flying through our mind continuously. A steady flow of thoughts all the time coming through the mind. Now where do these thoughts come from? All of a sudden you say, gee, that just must have come out of the clear blue sky. It must have come out of clear blue to me. You didn't think of it. In fact, it might be something you didn't even know about. And the thought comes through and you say, well, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? That couldn't happen to me. And so you throw that thought aside. And if it's a good thought, why not accept it and stop it and analyze it and accept it and let it happen to you? And these thoughts are coming through our mind all the time. But a negative thought comes through and it stops there for a minute and say, boy, that's a good negative thought. I'll have to stop and analyze that one. And you start thinking about it, and pretty soon you get a frown on your face and you think about it a little more and you create a beautiful picture. And all of a sudden you put that down in the subconscious and you say, boy, there's another bad thing's going to happen to me. Have you ever caught yourself thinking about something you didn't want to think about and you've been thinking about it for 5 minutes? And all of a sudden you say, what am I thinking about that nasty thing for? We do it all the time, folks. But we can stop now anytime we want. And we can change that thought and put in a good thought. If you don't want to think about oranges, change the thought and think about bananas if you want. If you don't want to think about lack, change the thought and think about prosperity. If you don't want to think about hate, think about love. If you don't want to think about anything that is negative, put a positive idea in your head. And you know what happens? And you can analyze it, and you can just dream about it and everything else, and get all these seeds planted properly, and have all these wonderful things happen. Get 20 wonderful seeds planted. Get them written down, defined. Thank you. Plant them into the subconscious mind, put it away, and every time it comes back into the mind, and the law is saying it's on its way, you just say thank you. Don't analyze it because it's already planted. Just say thank you and go on. And have 10, 15, 20, 30 these wonderful seeds planted, and folks, you'll walk on air, and you'll have miracles happen in your life. And don't be afraid to do this. If your wife isn't in harmony with the wonderful things that you want to happen to you, or if the husband isn't in harmony with you, or if the children aren't, or your friends aren't, you don't have to show them. Plant your seeds privately then, and put them away privately. And tell something you didn't want to think about, and you've been thinking about it for 5 minutes. And all of a sudden you say, what am I thinking about that nasty thing for? We do it all the time, folks. But we can stop now anytime we want. And we can change that thought and put in a good thought. If you don't want to think about oranges, change the thought and think about bananas if you want. If you don't want to think about lack, change the thought and think about prosperity. If you don't want to think about hate, think about love. If you don't want to think about anything that is negative, put a positive idea in your head. And you know what happens? And you can analyze it, and you can just dream about it and everything else, and get all these seeds planted properly, and have all these wonderful things happen. Get 20 wonderful seeds planted. Get them written down, defined. Thank you. Plant them into the subconscious mind, put it away, and every time it comes back into the mind, and the law is saying it's on its way, you just say thank you. Don't analyze it because it's already planted. Just say thank you and go on. And have 10, 15, 20, 30 these wonderful seeds planted, and folks, you'll walk on air, and you'll have miracles happen in your life. And don't be afraid to do this. If your wife isn't in harmony with the wonderful things that you want to happen to you, or if the husband isn't in harmony with you, or if the children aren't, or your friends aren't, you don't have to show them. Plant your seeds privately then, and put them away privately, and plant them deep. And all these wonderful things will happen, and say, you know, the one thing about that person, I don't know what happened to him, but man, oh man, everything they touch turns to gold. And that's the reason. That's the reason, folks. The planting properly of your seeds. It's a real pleasure being here with you. Thank you very much.
So it's the planting of the seeds, Joe. Like, I thought that was interesting when he starts talking about, you know, you've got to raise your consciousness. And that's that, you know, conscious awareness, which is, you know, the challenge. You know, it is. But I think, like when you when you let's say, reflecting, on your situation and what you were going to do and everything else, did you have a vision for yourself where you'd say, right, okay, I'm going to, right, that's it, I'm going to get myself in shape? Did you have like a target weight that you were trying to aim for, or, like when you were planting your seeds from that position, were you thinking about how the person that you needed to become, or were you thinking about, like what I need to do today, or were you thinking about what I need to do tomorrow? Were you thinking about the steps? Were you thinking about, right, I need to act like this way, or how were you thinking about it?
Good question. Let me show you something. You see that?
No.
Can you see my background?
Yes.
You see that?
Yeah.
See can you see my arrow?
I can't. What am I looking at?
You see my mouse? No, you don't see my mouse. Yeah?
No.
Let me point it to you. See this?
Yeah.
This picture there? There's a picture of a man half naked. He got a band, but his physique was muscle and just lean.
Yeah.
And I put that on purpose. And the title said, "Get into a garden, better health." And I didn't read the article. I just put the picture because I liked the way his body was look. Lean, muscle, he got his six pack. And I just put it there. Every time I walk past, I look at the picture. And, part of the phrase of the thing is, get into garden for better health. And it reminds me that I have to plant the seed in the garden, and I always, no matter what I do. So I create something that helped me. I am not very good at planning, like sit down and kind of like mapping out, this is what I'm going to do. This is the exercise. But what I notice every day, I just attract something, like someone, like I attract to go into the gym, and I join the gym class, and I, keep showing up every single day. Sometimes I don't feel like I do it. I still go, because that picture remind me, this is what I really want to look, And you show the picture of me laying in the hospital with the stomach, more fat. But now I am, the weight, it's, more muscle in weight, more lean. Now I can see my breast, I can see my duty. The stomach is not in the but that's how I always visualize it. Like I define it by, I just look at the picture on one of the newspaper, and I said, I like this body, not too bulky, not too thick, just lean muscle. I just want to look good, and that's what I think. And I dropped a few kilos, and that's why I just put the picture there for purpose. And the same with the army. When I decided to join, I just cut up a piece of. So, and that's how I define my goals. And I think my vision board was not used to be there, but I move it to the back of my computer so I can see it every single day. I put the 5 houses, a picture of 5 houses, some random picture. I said to my daughter, let's find me a 5 house, and just normal, ordinary 5 house. It's not a, and it's amazed me when I went past and accomplished that goals. I look like, how did I ever do it? But like he said, you acknowledge it, you think about it, and then you write it down, and you acknowledge it. God, thank you for giving me 5 houses. And you just close it, like put it somewhere, and you just go there and work. Because your mind is always connected to what have you created. Because as soon you get out of your head into a piece of paper, you start creating something. and it's so true. We work in we painting the picture of what is in here, and it's whether it's a 5 house or 5 car, and you can go further and just name them. I want a Cadillac, I want a Lamborghini, and now we realize how important the pictures is. We can go to the magazine, look it up, and cut them up and put them somewhere so you can see it. Because
it's funny you say that, Joe. It's
Mm.
funny you say that because, obviously I was saying to you before that, we're buying this house, right? And we've got a bit of work to do on it and everything else. And I'd said to Kate that, when we buy this house and, when we're decorating it, what we should do is we should put up pictures of things that we want, I said, because where we live at the moment, I've got pictures of, bottles of wine on the fridge. I've got pictures of how they make wine, or pictures of bottles of wine on the wall. I've got pictures of, a painting of, bottles of wine, a sketch of how wine is made. And then I wonder, why do I drink so much wine? I've got all these pictures of wine. I said, we need to get rid of all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And we need to start putting in pictures of things that we want. And then Kate really never said anything. And then a couple of days ago, she says, I really like that idea. I really like that idea of putting up pictures of things that we want. Because they do come to you. And you see them in your mind. You see them, and that it just reinforces that seed. Do you know what I mean? And that's sometimes the reason why we don't know why we do things. Well, because we surround ourselves with them. We surround ourselves with images of them. Even and then it becomes that subconscious thing. So look, there's no doubt about it that sometimes that seed is planted by accident, by what you surround yourself with, or by who you surround yourself with. So you've got to be cautious. You've got to guard that mind. Do you know what I mean? But the funny thing is that,
absolutely,
I love the idea of planting the seed, and then I think, the farmer never comes along and digs up the seed to see if it's growing, does he? He just trusts that it's growing. He just trusts that it's going to grow, and it is at the same time, it's so challenging that that when you become consciously aware and you're not being as good as you can be, there's no one to blame, only yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's just you all the time, and there's no doubt that life can be challenging. It can be really challenging, and it can be hard. And it, but why do we make it hard for ourselves, Joey? Why sometimes do we make it hard for ourselves? And then try and make excuses. It's because this happened, and it's because that happened, and I'm not in control of this, and I'm not in control of that. But you're always in control of how you respond to something. And if something gets really bad, there was a time when it wasn't really bad. Why did it keep coming towards you? Do you know what I mean? Why didn't I change direction? Why didn't I put the brakes on and stop it from happening? Do you know what I mean? So there's always something. Now, some things are inevitable. Do you know what I mean? What does Bob Proctor say? Change is inevitable. Do you know it's going to happen to you? Do you know what I mean? You've got to, but it's how you deal with it. But listen, I'm going to get your final thoughts, Joe, because I love hearing your final thoughts, because they're just, they're different from mine, and it makes me think. Do you know what I mean? It helps me think, right? So we're going to get Joey's final thoughts. Episode 148, The Millionaire Blueprint, Earl Shoaff's timeless lessons on wealth and success. And, it doesn't come to us, it comes through us. Let's hear what Joey has to say.
Absolutely. Mike, I just want to say thank you so much. I think every day I'm grateful for you. You're part of the people that I'm grateful. I write it down on my gratitude. I have 3 books here that I have. One is a goal journal, and one is a self-image, and one is a gratitude. And one of the things that I write it down, I thank for the people that show up in my life and supporting me and want to have a friendship with me and share ideas or goals with me. And I thank God every day for people like you. And I say that from the bottom of my heart, because that's how I value the time that I have with you. You like a teacher to me. You like a mentor to me. You're the one that sees something in me and believe in me, because it was not a coincidence that we have to meet and do this work together. It was planned long time ago, and I attracted you. You attracted me, and now we're joined together to give back to whoever will come across our journal and our work, so that one day they will become a millionaire. They will become a successful person because of the seed that we planted today. We decided, and I think that's the most important thing that I heard today, and it's being repeated in Earl Shoaff video. Decide what you really, really want in life and write it down. Write it down and be specific. Like, don't write it down and just say, I want to travel in a ship, because you, like you said, you're gonna end up in the Navy and you don't want to travel in a ship anymore. Don't wish that I want a lot of money, because you're gonna end up in the bank working to count someone else's money instead of your own money. And it's all about deciding what you really want in life. Write it down, because there's some natural connection there within you inside to the outside, through your mind connected to your hand into a pen or ink into a piece of paper or a code card, and you carry that, acknowledge that. I think one of the things that I learned tonight: write it out, define your goal, decide what you really want in life, write it down, define it. I don't want a car only, but specific. What kind of car you want? A Cadillac, a Lamborghini, whatever you want. Everyone, dream is different, but write it down and thanks about it. Thanks that you. The reason why you need to thanks about it and acknowledge, because in your mind you already have that. Bob Proctor used to say, if you have it in your mind, you already have it in your hand. And I experienced that in my journey, and also whoever is listening. The thing now I realize, when I tick the goals that I put 5 or more than 5 years ago, I realize I decide, I write it down, I create that idea, and I acknowledge it. When I acknowledge it, which means I bless it, because I already have it. And no matter the time frame, no matter the circumstances, whether I'm gonna struggle before I get it, or I will see the result in a few years, it will come, because I already see it in myself. No one else will take away that idea from me. The original idea, it was for me. The original idea that Mike decided to do something about his business, it's his original idea, and no one can take away that. And it's the same thing with you. If you decided what you really want in life, write it down, define it, be specific about it, give some time about it, like I do, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, and acknowledge it, give thanks, and said, I'm glad I already. And that's why Bob Proctor used to teach us, when you write down your goal, you said this way: today I'm so happy, I'm so grateful that I am happy, healthy, and wealthy. And that's what I do. People think there's a secret, but there's no secret. The secret is only you have to make a decision. Make a decision, and you go after, and you go and plant that seed when you decided that goal, you plant it. Don't carry with me in your pocket. It won't grow. The seed has to go somewhere, maybe in the dark, to work its magic. And Mike and I have been through that experience. We've been through a lot. We've been trying to build up something, and it collapsed, and try to build up something. But we learn as we go, because in life there's no bad experience, there's no good experience. It's all learning experience. And the people who success in life, they all look back to their journey and where they are now, and realize they were the thing they have to go through, the challenge, the hardship, the adversity. is part of the journey to where they are because they learn something. You don't learn when you success. You learn when you fail, when you make mistake. And like we're going back to what we talk about in school, they teach you what to think. They teach you what is money. And money. They tell you that, but in the real world, or the entrepreneurship, or the business mind world, or the wealthy world, and people who success in life and learn about how money work and also wealth work and personal growth is, they realize they learn how to think. How to think. How can I get the resources to get the money? How can I look at something and create something from it and put a value on it by expressing it to the marketplace? Then I get a reward financially for adding value to the marketplace. So today there's a lot of things, and me and Mike are very proud that we are tapping into this resource, and we share that with you. And if you want this resource, please reach out. We can share that with you. Reach out to Mike, reach out to me, because this piece of information or video that we watched tonight can change your life. It changed our life, through from different mentor, but same concept. And that's why we pay it forward by sharing that with you, because we want every person that we come in contact to see what we see. Sometime in life, successful people see something that unsuccessful people don't see. And that's why they take action when the unsuccessful person don't want to take action. Because the wise, the people who are wise and have wisdom and knowledge, they see something that other people see. They see a nice piece of house, old house in a nice piece of land in a corner shop. And the people who don't have the knowledge and the wisdom, they walk past it and they said, it's an ugly house. One person come, knock the whole house, subdivide the land, build 2 houses, sell one, keep one. Sell one, pay off the other one. And that's how, successful people, when you become an entrepreneur or a successful person, as you grow as a person, you learn how to think, not what to think. So tonight, there's a lot of things. And I think we talk about millionaire blueprint, how to become a millionaire. I think when we look back today, there's more, there's a lot of people have become a millionaire than 50 years ago. Why? Because of knowledge. Why? Because people learn, people understand it's time not to think not what to think, but how to think. Because when you understand that concept, you live a good life. You are happy. You don't feel like, we talk about my story and what I up to now. My kids look at me, Dad, where you don't want to go to bed, because I enjoy what I do, because I know I'm adding value to someone else's life. I'm changing life. I'm changing people's situation, whether it's their physical health or financial health. It's not a work for me. It's a passion for me, because I know when I help enough people get what they want in life, whatever I put down in my goal card, it will definitely come back to me, because I know it. As soon as I wrote it down, I decided and wrote it down, and I defined it, and I think about it. And I said, God, thank you. I am happy. I am healthy. I am successful. Mike, thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope we add value in some way. I love our program. I love your energy that you bring to our program every day. And there's no doubt that every week I'm thinking of you, my friend. And thank you for being part of my journey. And that's why I said to you, I think, and the same with me. I take you with me on my journey, and I do believe you take me on your journey. And
absolutely. I do, because I'm always telling you a story. I'm always saying, yeah, you've got to be in touch with Joye. Why wouldn't I? But there's no doubt. Like when I think about that, one of my most favorite quotes, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. When you think about the day-to-day stuff that we go through, and that we're doing every day, if we're just doing it on autopilot, whether it's that home to work routine, or even if you're in your own business and you're just turning up every day and doing the same thing every day, until to change something, you got to write down your goals. You got to build a new model of your life, that makes the old one obsolete. So you never change things by fighting the existing reality, and that's what we're always doing. We're fighting the existing reality. We get up, we do the same thing, have the same habits, daily rituals, and everything else. So to change something, you've got to build a new model. That's your goal card. That's your gratitude book. That's your self-image book. All of those things. Like it comes through us. You've got to grow into that person. And then. What Joey's talking about is he's talking about, that goal card, write it down, have all those things, and then let go and let God. That's what he's talking about. You're planting that seed, trusting, knowing that it's coming, knowing that it's on its way. Joey, it's beautiful. That's exactly what you're talking about. That's what I heard. And I'm thinking, this is simple, but it's not easy. To be aware all the time, to be thinking all the time. Like you're fortunate, I know this sounds stupid, you're fortunate that you had that trigger event which changed the trajectory of your life. Do you know what I mean? Which made your life better. Sometimes something bad has to happen for you to change. Now you don't have to wait. What your message is, don't wait. Don't be like me and wait. You can do something now. You can change something now. Start with your goal card. Start just with something little, like I'm going to get a free cup of coffee today. Someone's going to buy me a coffee today. Do you know what I mean? Start with something little. That's what he's talking about. You're not ready for that big step. To be able to suggest, oh yeah, I'm going to make £1 million a year when you're only making maybe 50 grand a year. That's too big a step. You have to go from 50 to maybe 75 to 100 to 150, maybe then to 250, then to 500, then to $1 million. There's steps you got to take. But you got to, but it's not about your current reality. It's about, what it is that you want to become. You've got to build that new model, write down those new goals. Like it's so true. Joe, you're making so much sense. But the key is, plant it, let go, let God bring it to you. Do you know what I mean? Keep working on it. Something else that you said. This is something that you had said before. Where is it? Intentionally act on the thing that you want. Right? Now that intention can be just thinking about it. Right. Okay. How can I do this? Who would I need to speak to in order to start putting this plan together? Like just little, and then these people show up in your life. How does that happen? Are you joking? Is it really that easy? Yeah, intentionally act on the thing that you want. Starts with writing down a goal. Intentionally act on writing down the thing that you want, the things that you want. Right, okay, how am I going to do it? The plans are going to start to come into place. Start with something small. If this is new to you, start with something easy. Do you know what I mean? Something that you think, like now personally, I like to think big, and we're going to watch that video at the end. For me, like, what is it, Joey? Just before we go, right? You've got to explain, A, B, and C goals, right? So just tell us quickly about that, because these are important. And maybe you want some A goals to begin with, just to give you self-belief. Maybe you want some B goals, and maybe you want some C goals. Do you know what I mean?
I might need you to explain it because that one is a slip from my mind, to be honest.
Yeah. But so A goals. Yeah. So A goals are goals. A goals are goals that you've done in the past that you can do. You can do it easy because you've done it already. Do you know what I mean? So it's that's just an A goal. Yeah. So and then B goals are goals that you've never done it, but you think, yeah, I could do that. And then C goals are like, I've got no idea how I'm going to do that. That's impossible. Do you know what I mean? That's an impossible goal. Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to have a C goal. And this next video that we're going to play is going to explain how you do that, right? Joey, always a pleasure. You blow my mind every week. You really do. Every time we get together, you've always got something amazing to share.
Mike, can I just say one thing before you? I just want to show to our audience my little tip. we talk about the coca, we talk about the vision board. Guess what I did intentionally? I take a picture of my vision board, and I put it as my screensaver of my phone. Every time I switch my phone, I saw my goals. I saw the houses that I want, the charity that I want to do, the kind of lifestyle that I want. But the most important thing for me is the one at the bottom there, is the hand with the grain, with more hand receiving it. It's I always believe in giving back. No matter how successful you are, I learn in life and through the personal development and the growth that I learned from Proctor and all those great leaders, the blessing is coming from giving. When you give, and it doesn't have to be money, doesn't have to be, you can give your time, you can give your contribution, influence. You can give. This is what we do. Me and Mike, that's what we do. We don't have to do this, but because we decided, as part of our gratitude and thanks every day for the goal that we already received, is to give back. And the more we give, not only the people get value out of it, but guess what? Me and Mike are the first person that felt that blessing, because it's set us up right to the start of the week. And we go through the week with that momentum, with that energy, with that positive vibration, and we share it with anyone that we come in contact. Mike, thank you very much for allowing me to do that, and I'm grateful for you.
Always a pleasure, Joey. Always a pleasure.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, my God, I'm going to change something. Now we say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming, What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wakened the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.